And the award for most understated performance by a drug-sniffing dog in a scripted series goes to, oh, hang on, the dog in this episode is not listed in the credits. But take a bow and a half milk bone, Pooch. You earned it. Seriously, am I the only one who assumed that when a professional canine found illicit substances on a truck bumper, it would start barking a lot? This one just takes a seat, ears up. Given Vince Gilligan's predilection for verite when it comes to cinema, I'm going to assume that we are looking at something close to a reenactment. The entire Dust the Truck subplot of this week's episode was the best part of an hour that at times felt a bit padded out. Lying in a sniper's perch over a desolate stretch of highway, Mike fires a bunch of skyward bullets as the drivers for one of Hector Salamanca's ice cream trucks take a break to stash their guns before the border crossing. Those shots convince the drivers that they are not under attack, must be hunters, right? Which means they aren't concerned before Mike takes aim at those drug-loaded sneakers, which leave the vehicle covered in exactly the sort of substance that makes a DEA-employed German shepherd take notice. It is the sort of ploy that Gilligan and his room of writers excel at, and it is flawlessly set up during the early scene in which Mike and Gus Fring meet for the first time on yet another abandoned stretch of road. You've got to hand it to this lovable and laconic senior citizen. He is fearless. His opening gambit in a face-to-face that would give mortals a panic attack is to produce the don't note left on his windshield at the end of Season 2 and ask Gus this question. Care to elaborate? We learn that Gus doesn't want Salamanca dead, yet. What gives this scene its added frisson is knowing from Breaking Bad that the death match between Salamanca and Fring will be won by Salamanca, though only by committing suicide at the same moment he commits homicide. The upper hand relished by Gus here, in other words, will not last. In this season's other death match, the fraternal one, Jimmy is cuffed, fingerprinted, and incarcerated after the Chuck presses breaking and entering charges. Along with a few others, Chuck's plan has unfolded a little too perfectly for my tastes, and now he has convinced the prosecutor to push just hard enough to strip Jimmy of his law license, but not to land him in prison. A better solution for everyone, Chuck calls it. The prosecutor agrees. When a plan this complicated comes off without a hitch, you know a hitch is in the offing. By the end of the episode, Kim has offered to help her law partner and sometime paramour fight Chuck in court. This is going to get interesting, and I happily anticipate the coming twists. But I have a feeling Jimmy tipped us off to Chuck's ultimate fate when he prophesied, while awaiting arrest, that his older brother would die alone, besieged by electrical devices during a trip to the hospital. Two separate games of wits promise to fill much of the rest of this season: drug lord versus drug lord, and lawyer versus lawyer. The ultimate fates of 3 of these 4 players is already known, which makes Saul the most zen of all shows. It's about the slow and suspenseful denouement of our expectations, the journey, as it were, not the destination. The episode contains some wonderful imagery, most notably the shots of Mike as he awaits the arrival of Gus and his minions. At moments like that, I wished Better Call Saul played in theaters, where the splendor of the mise-en-scene could be fully appreciated. At other times, I wish this show would hurry up. I've cavilled before about how little the writers are giving Kim to do, and this week they came up with a pretty lame solution. Watch her get ready for work. Unless I missed something, the montage of Kim's morning routine, applying makeup, getting to the gym, showering, doesn't add much, even our understanding of her. Is that really the best use of Rhea Seehorn? In Season 2, she briefly showed some edge and some cunning, the capacity to provide some intrigue and color. But she seems to have returned to her role as the voice of sanity and rectitude. There is a place for that, and I'm not saying she ought to start slinging hash, as the kids say, or at least as that one kid in Breaking Bad used to say, but she can do so much more than get dressed and be Jimmy's faithful, tenacious partner. Even the romantic heat between her and Jimmy, which never quite reached a convincing boil, has cooled. This very fine actress should have a meteor role by now. What did I miss? And was that the first time that we've seen a lady flicking ashes onto the scales of justice in the opening title sequence? I loved it. Reminds me of the wonderfully sleazy direction that Jimmy will ultimately head that one fine day when he turns into Saul. Here's my ride.